Putin smiles on red carpet in Alaska, but Ukrainians remind the world that peace only requires one thing: Russia leaving Ukraine. In Beijing, humanoid robots raced, boxed, and played soccer, but mostly fell flat on their faces. An actor sells his likeness to TikTok, and now his AI avatar is shilling supplements he never endorsed. Duolingo's CEO explains why he's betting the company's future on artificial intelligence and why users shouldn't worry about humans being replaced. And in North Carolina, my old home state, a Confederate monument with the words "faithful slaves" etched on its faces, a federal lawsuit that could set a precedent nationwide. Welcome to Filtered with TJ Walker. Okay, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I am TJ Walker. This is your daily dive into the top news, business, technology, and culture stories filtered through the lens of communication skills and personal development, all with the goal of making you more successful. Let's dive in with story one. Russia could end the war by simply leaving. According to the New York Times, Ukrainian journalist Olga Rodenko says the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska revealed one hard truth. Peace in Ukraine doesn't depend on complicated negotiations. It depends on Russia going home. She described watching Vladimir Putin walk the red carpet, smiling like a victor. For Ukrainians, she writes, the smile was revolting. Putin still frames Ukraine as the obstacle, but Rudenko notes the reality. Russia could end the war in Ukraine at any moment by stopping its attacks and withdrawing its forces. Polls show most Ukrainians want negotiations, but not at the cost of surrender. As one soldier told her, when you talk about Donetsk Oblast like a hot cake that can be passed around, I want them to remember that everyone here has their own family. Trump, meanwhile, hinted at a peace plan built on Ukraine ceding more land, a move that Ukrainians see as betrayal. As Rodenko concludes, true peace requires only one step: Russia leaving Ukraine. Okay, so what's the real message here? All of this talk about negotiating and Trump being a big deal maker, all of that is irrelevant to one central truth. Russia invaded a sovereign country. Everyone in the world outside of the US, for the most part, sees this as an act of war criminality. To solve the war, the criminals need to leave. A lot of things in life are complex. This isn't one of them. So let's dive a little deeper. For some bizarre reason, I'm not saying that Trump is a plant of Russia or on their payroll, but for some reason, for decades now, Trump seems to rarely be able to criticize Russia. And the party he's a member of, Republican Party, traditionally was very anti-Russia, anti-Soviet Union, anti-communist. Trump has done an about-face and is all but endorsing dictatorships and tyranny as long as it is Putin doing the dictatoring. Excuse that French, so to speak. But it truly is bizarre how Putin does things that are against the wishes of democracy, against the principles of a democracy, against the whole concept of international relations, international law, international commerce. And Trump consistently says things like, oh, he's a smart guy, he's a tough guy. He's much tougher than Biden, for example. To take an international thug, an international pariah, a war criminal like Putin, and first of all, not recognize that he's a criminal is bad enough, but then to elevate his status by saying you admire someone who jails and kills dissidents and opponents, journalists, and put them above American patriots, American citizens, American leaders, is truly bizarre. It really is this weird funhouse world we're living in, where people in one party are essentially throwing away every principle they ever held dear. And now it's messing up the whole world. Because if not for the United States propping up and supporting Putin, I think Europe would have put an end to this nonsense a long time ago. Now, obviously, it's difficult dealing with Russia because they were formerly a great power. They still have a lot of old, dusty nuclear weapons sitting around that I'm sure can be made to work. So I'm not suggesting it's an easy solution in that sense for Ukrainians and Western Eastern Europe to push out Russia. But the solution is easy. Russia needs to worry about its own people. You've got a nation where their economy is frankly pathetic. You've got a nation that covers 11 time zones and their economy is no bigger than Italy. You've got a nation where a million or so people have died or suffered serious injuries since this ill-fated war began. You've got a nation that is increasingly an international pariah, where its own citizens can't freely trade with leading economies around the world. You've got a nation beset with alcoholism and depression and depravity. Putin needs to take care of his own house first before trying to take over more of the world. Now, I suppose it's got to be depressing if you're Putin and you were part of the glorious Soviet Union in your childhood to think, okay, you're no longer the leading power in the world or the second leading power in the world. You're a third-rate country, pretty close to developing world status, developing nation status, when you look at a lot of economic and health indicators. So yeah, it's got to be depressing to be Putin. But he needs to go see a psychiatrist or psychologist and not work out his inner demons by killing millions of Ukrainians and his own people. And that's really what I see the bottom line here. Now, in terms of communication, what does this mean for you and me? It's very troublesome, I think, for anyone in America who's a centrist as I am, or who is right of center, or even a conservative, and certainly a liberal, to see the leading voice of America constantly sending mixed messages. One day he's kind of against Putin and says he can't be trusted. The next day he's saying, he's the boss and he's a tough guy. And, the ball's in the other guy's court, and acting like that Putin deserves tremendous respect. I mean, it's very mixed messaging. And it all comes from what your core values are. Trump, to his credit, has been very consistent in that he values leaders who are authoritarian in nature, who essentially kill or eliminate political opponents, opposition in the media, niceties like actually counting real votes in real elections. He admires those people. And he has been clear about that. But it's extraordinarily mixed messaging for what the United States is sending to the rest of the world when we've been the ones saying, hey, folks, give up your tyranny, give up your dictatorships, give up your communist authoritarian leaders, give up your dictators of all stripes and join the club of democracy. And now here we are embracing and coddling and elevating this criminal Putin. It makes absolutely no sense. It's mixed messaging, and it's destroying the credibility of the United States. Not pretty. It's not pretty at all. More in a moment. Hey, if you're enjoying this kind of take and want to hear more stories filtered through the lens of communication, make sure you're following the show, whether you're watching or listening. New episodes drop every single day. And if there's a little notification option where you are now, go ahead and turn it on. It helps you stay in the loop. The athletes at China's robot games fell down a lot, according to the New York Times. Beijing just hosted the world's first humanoid robot games, and while there were glimpses of remarkable progress, there were also plenty of pratfalls. I'll show you in a moment. The three-day event drew more than 280 teams from 16 countries. Robots ran track races, attempted backflips, and even kickboxed with padded gloves. Some succeeded. One robot ran the 1,500 meters in just over 6 minutes, a pace faster than many human joggers. Others, though, struggled. In soccer matches, child-sized robots collapsed in piles, while a goalkeeper stood motionless as the ball rolled into its legs. During kickboxing, one commentator admitted the hit rate is a little low. They're punching the air. China is pushing robotics with heavy investment and government backing. Experts say advances in balance and locomotion are real, but limitations remain. As Oregon State's Alan Fern put it, the robots are still dumb. The games, however, showed just how far and how clumsy humanoid robots have become. So, let me share with you, those of you watching on YouTube and other social media platforms, let me just show you this in a moment. And then we're going to dissect what I think the real meaning is. Because make no mistake about it, this is not just about a few laughs. This isn't about look at these silly things. It really is, I believe, about something very, very significant of what's going to happen in the world and why we should all really be paying attention to it. So let me just share this with you right now. And this is going to take just one moment. By the way, thank you for watching Filtered with TJ Walker. This is the show where every single day we bring to you the top news, business, technology, and culture stories of the day and dissect it through the lens of communication skills, all with the goal of making you more successful and more effective in your personal life and in your professional life. So let's just take a look at some of these things. This is courtesy of the New York Times. So these are the recent games in China. This is fascinating to me. This is far better than I thought robots could currently do. Now, it is a little funny to see them swinging in the mist. In a minute, you'll see them sort of falling down. But let's not kid ourselves. Let's not kid ourselves, folks. Let's really get to what the real message is here. Robots are coming. And I don't mean that in some scary way they're going to take over and kill us. But what we are seeing is a connection now of the internet and artificial intelligence going from just on the online space to the real world stuff, actual robots. When this happens, we're going to get closer and closer to the day that John Maynard Keynes predicted 100 years ago. Maybe humans only have to work 15 hours a week. If you could have a robot take care of every single household task, take care of home services for people who are bedridden, doing all the things you don't want, mowing your grass, washing your dishes, maybe even feeding your kids, certainly cooking gourmet meals at home. It's going to change the world. It's going to change the world dramatically. I'm not suggesting it's going to happen in the next 2 years, but maybe the next 5 or 10. The robots are coming. We need to prepare. So let's dig a little deeper here. As you can see, these robots are not exactly ready to take over the Olympics. But I do give, it's just funny seeing it happen, but this is where it is right now. This is where the technology is today. And it's frankly a lot better off than I thought it was. Seeing these robots running, looking almost like human beings, is remarkable. And the Chinese are taking it seriously. A lot of people in the United States are as well. It's only going to get better. The robots you're seeing right here today are the worst we will ever see for the rest of our lives, for the rest of humanity. They're only going to get better every single day. Now, we've already seen, I see it on a daily basis, where ChatGPT writes better than I do on a lot of things. It's infinitely faster. It saves me time, saves all of us time. But that's just in the cloud. That's just on a screen. What does happen when this comes down and inhabits real things like a robot, like machines that can do things that we like to think only humans can do? Now, I like going to nice restaurants. There's nothing like a wildly creative chef who can create a masterpiece that's beautifully plated. There's something special about that, and I pay top dollar, and some of you do as well. But in theory, If a robot can be programmed to hold a knife and to chop and have in its database every single recipe ever made and the step-by-step process of how that beef bourguignon was created, or that filet mignon, or whatever tikka masala, whatever your dream dish is, if an AI has the ability to input every single ingredient, every single step, and can do it for you while you're sleeping, and for almost, I won't say almost no money. Initially, it's going to be wildly expensive, but at some point, like with all technologies, cost goes way, way down. If you can do it for 1/10 the price of going out to a restaurant, why not invite 10 friends over and have your robot cook for you? That's going to change life dramatically. Now, unless it seems like I'm putting chefs out of business, it's not just chefs, it's everybody. In theory, I can be put out of business. Now, I'm trying to get ahead of that because I already have my own AI clone, but it's a digital world. I do not yet have a TJ robot. Now, for creating digital shows like this, I don't need a robot. But if someone, for example, next week I'm going to San Francisco to do a training with a major technology company. If they could push a button, have a TJ robot come and do it all, and it looked just like me, sound like me, get the same results, why would they need to fly me out there? It wouldn't really make any sense. So that may be happening sooner than we think. I don't know, but I'm going to be monitoring it. I hope you're monitoring it, because we all have to be vigilant, not at protecting ourselves from the robots coming at us with knives. That's not my real fear. The far bigger fear is that we become so lazy, we don't have an excuse to get out of bed, and we ultimately just do intravenous feeding of sugar water all day long and rot away. I think that's a far bigger risk, certainly for a lot of Americans. But these robots are exciting. I happen to have a nephew who's studying robotics and about to enter Cornell Engineering School, specifically studying robots. So I have a particular fascination with this. Interesting what happened here in China. They had 280 teams from 16 nations in these competitions. The robots ran, they boxed, they played soccer. Yeah, they did fall a lot. One robot ran 1,500 meters in 6 minutes and 34 seconds. Now, that's not world-class timing, but it's better than a lot of people can do. Because let's face it, a lot of people, especially Americans, can't run at all. The advances are coming in balance. The advances are coming in the acrobatics. Now, there's been a lot of criticism of Jeff Bezos and Amazon for how they treat workers in their warehouses, working them long hours, warm, heated conditions, not enough restroom breaks. I can tell you right now, there's no way in the world Jeff Bezos doesn't fire every single warehouse worker he has if he can replace them with robots. Now, they're doing that at some level already. But for many tasks, and my understanding is, one of the hardest is sort of packing and unpacking. That grip of knowing exactly where to put things and place things is still beyond the reach of commercially viable robots, but it's changing every day. And at that point, we're going to lose a lot more jobs. Now, it's been widely discussed how autonomous driving is going to eliminate 2-3 million driving jobs in the US alone in coming years. But if all manual labor can be replaced with robots, then we're looking at huge swaths of society. And I'm not even talking about lawyers and radiologists who could be put out of business and made unemployable by AI. So we're not talking about it today, but this does bring us all to the issue of, are we coming to the point where there's going to have to be a universal income, a basic universal income, which is something that's been endorsed from everyone from Elon Musk to Bernie Sanders. A lot of people initially scoff at it until you realize we really might get to the point where AI and robotics make most labor obsolete, because AI and robotics can do it for essentially free. And at that point, absent a strong regulatory environment preventing any company from firing someone, it would no longer be economically rational for anyone to hire anyone else, which means everybody's unemployed. Am I predicting gloom and doom right away? No. And it may be the best thing that ever happened for humanity. We just don't know yet. And that's why I like to pay attention to things like these robot Olympics, because I do think they are painting a picture of what is to come. And don't be fooled, just because it's falling down or tripping or less than perfect today doesn't mean it can't be a lot better than you or me. Maybe not tomorrow or the next 6 months, but maybe the next 5 years. More in a moment. We'll be right back after this break. Want to advertise here? You better be legit. No crypto, no junk food, no supplements. Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. Most people can't afford a full-time coach. And even if you could, good luck finding one who's available when you need them. That's why I created the TJ Walker AI clone. It's built on my 40-plus years of real-world coaching and training. You get my exact advice, style, and frameworks instantly. Ask it how to handle a tough question. Get feedback on your elevator pitch. Rehearse your next big talk. This is the next generation of communication coaching. It's smarter than an app, more personal than a course, and always ready. Start using it today at tjwalker.ai. You'll wonder how you ever did without it. Want to advertise to ambitious upscale professionals who actually care about communication, success, and results? Go to tjwalker.com/advertise. And no, we don't take ads for crypto, supplements, or junk food. If you've ever struggled with nerves, unclear messaging, or just not being taken seriously, this is for you. I created the TJ Walker Success Library as a crash course in professional level communication. You get 5 downloadable books for just $9.95 that walk you through public speaking, media training, persuasive communication, confidence building, and daily practice routines. This is the same training I've delivered to presidents, CEOs, and leaders in 45 nations, boiled down and instantly accessible. Go to tjwalker.com/books and download them now. Hassan, thanks for stopping by. Good to see you. Let's hop right into issue 3 today. He sold his likeness. Now his avatar is shilling supplements on TikTok. According to the New York Times, Dallas actor Scott Jackman licensed his face and voice to TikTok's avatar program last year, only to discover digital Scott popping up in ads he never approved. His AI-generated twin has sold insurance apps, horoscopes, puzzles, and even male performance supplements, sometimes speaking fluent Spanish, a language the real Jackman doesn't know. Jackman was paid just $750 and travel expenses. No royalties, no control, and now deep regret. You really don't know the ramifications of this. He said other performers, some paid only $500, have had their avatars appear in embarrassing or misleading ads across TikTok and even other platforms. TikTok's avatars are clearly labeled AI generated and subject to ad rules, but cases show how easily digital doubles can be repurposed. As NYU law professor Gene Fromer explained, you could have them articulate beliefs that are counter to their own. For actors, the avatar era is both opportunity and trap. I'm going to show you this in just a moment, but first, what's the real message here? If you are an actor, an expert, an influencer, a thought leader, be very careful about licensing your avatar to TikTok or any other big media company, because before you realize it, you could be promoting scams, the latest crypto meme coin, fraudulent healthcare pills and potions. Be very careful. It could be the most embarrassing thing that ever happens to you or your avatar. Now let's dig a little deeper. First, let me show you what this is in case you haven't seen it. And full disclosure, I do have my own video avatar, a digital clone, tjwalker.ai. You've seen it mentioned in some of the ads here, but let's take a look at this one. This is courtesy of the New York Times. And let me just play it for you a little bit, their comparison.
Hi, this is a new form of advertising. I'm an avatar.
Hello, this is a new form of advertising, and I am a real person.
Okay.
Hi,
so
this is a new form of advertising.
That's interesting to me because it really didn't seem very good to me. The voice sounded a little artificial, and it seemed a little choppy. I'm frankly surprised that that's getting a lot of attention. And I don't mean to sound filled with hubris, but I think my own AI clone is better than that. Now, I use my AI clone for ads, but I only use it for an ad for my course on how to make an AI video interactive clone. Am I saying I would never authorize it to others? No, I'm not saying that, but I wouldn't want to make it available generically for anyone to use. That's just me. There are models in the world where, okay, they sign away their rights. Now, they typically want royalties every time their image is used. But others upload their photos to image sites, get a one-time fee, doing so with the idea that they're not going to get additional compensation every single time the picture of them is used in some brochure or marketing or web page. That is the nature of monetizing images. And if you're a model, an actress, actor, that's always been a part of the game. Now, I'm all in favor of people getting residuals. I essentially get residuals every single month off of intellectual property I created sometimes 10, 15 years ago through my online courses. So I don't want to sound like a hypocrite. I love getting residuals and monetizing from my own intellectual property. It's a little different if it's a snapshot of your picture or of your face or your body. And how you want to navigate that, I do think is up to you, but I think it should be given some thought, some deep thought. Now, Hollywood is filled with movie stars who earlier in their career, just to make ends meet, appeared in softcore, sometimes hardcore porn movies just for a couple $100 because it was that or starved to death. And people reason you got to do what you got to do. That was never offered to me. I'd like to think I wouldn't have been tempted by that, but believe me, there were no offers on the table for that. But all of us do have offers at different times. There are times when I give certain companies the rights to use my courses any way they see fit for flat rate fees. Other times I want recurring residual income every single month or every single quarter. It's done on a case-by-case basis. So you're going to have to make decisions yourself. If you are an influencer, if you are a creator, if you're a communicator, if you're an expert at any level, or if you think you might be a creator or a thought leader at some point, I urge you, take very seriously your face, your image, your likeness, your voice, because that is unique to you. I remember many years ago, I was sitting with a close family member whose daughter was about 12 and about to go to high school in a couple of years. And I said, hey, I'll call him Sam. Sam, did you ever check to see what's on the website of your daughter's name? He said, no, I haven't checked. He typed in his daughter's first name and last name, and lo and behold, it was a stripper's website advertising her skills and talents. Now, it clearly wasn't my relative's daughter, but it was the same name. I said, that's going to be embarrassing when she goes to high school and people find her name and type it in, and this is what they see. Why put a child through that? He's like, oh, you're right. He put in a back order for that domain. Sure enough, a year or so later, it became available. He was able to buy the domain and at least protect that part of his daughter's identity. One of the reasons I named my daughter what I did name her is the domain name was available, and I bought the domain name. And yes, I pay every single year because I don't want anyone else in the world to have my daughter's domain name. She might not want to be a communicator, an influencer, a YouTuber, a podcaster, but she might, and it's going to help her to own her own intellectual property. Her name is a part of it. Your face is a part of it. Your voice is a part of it. So please think about it. Now, if you are in any way a creator, a trainer, an author, an expert, I think you should aggressively be creating your own digital image that can interact with people. It doesn't have to be video, because what I do is teach people to speak. I do, in fact, feel like it's important for people to have the video image of me. And, rather than me continue talking about it, let me just show you briefly, for those of you nice enough to join me live today, exactly what I'm talking about. It is the TJ Walker clone, and you can see it right here. You just go to tjwalker.ai. Let me bring it up, big picture for those of you watching. And you hit the button, and I'm not going to play it now, but it looks and sounds just like me. You can ask it questions, you can get feedback, and it doesn't cost you anything the first handful of times. So make a note, tjwalker.ai. It talks to people through audio in every language, or at the top 32 languages. It does it in video and in text. And it's very, very inexpensive to do this in a text format only. So if you don't have a lot of money, and let's say you just wrote your first book and money's tight, I would urge you to consider uploading your book into a clone and make that a giveaway companion to your book. And there are some services out there that will do it almost for free or virtually free for very little money. The service I use costs about $400 a month. And I realize that is maybe cost prohibitive for a lot of folks, but you don't have to start off with a full-fledged video interactive clone. You could start simple with just text. Get in the game, because this technology is coming. AI is touching everything. And it's not just going to be text, it's going to be audio, it's going to be voice. And as we talked about earlier today, it is going to be ultimately in real things, real robots, real machines roaming around. And who knows? I mean, at some point I may have a sick day and my robot walks into this studio, does the whole show as I would, and I can enjoy a sick day relaxing. And maybe you still get the same level of expertise and commentary. Maybe you won't even miss me. I don't know. Part of me doesn't really want that to happen yet. I would like to have something to do that's fun, intellectually challenging, and stimulating, because ultimately that's all what we want. A few more quick notes on this avatar thing. So some of the actors are getting $500, and I get it. If you ran out of your last cup of ramen noodles and you're a struggling actor in New York or Los Angeles, rent's high, you got to eat. You got to do what you got to do, but be very careful. So these avatars have appeared on TikTok platforms. TikTok says they are labeled as ads and they are labeled as avatars. I don't know if I buy that. Things can easily slip through the cracks, but things are moving very, very quickly. If you're an actor, again, we talked about chefs being put out of business. We talked about the workers in Amazon's warehouses being put out of business. If I were an actor, I would be scared out of my mind right now by being put out of business with artificial intelligence. If I were an actor, I'd spend all my time learning how to use AI to do everything, how to do a script, how to produce a movie, how to distribute a movie, how to produce a movie. I would want to be in control of everything so I could control the relationship with my fans. That's, I think, the only way anyone's really going to have any kind of job security in the future, unless you're already so famous. You're already Angelina Jolie, you're already George Clooney. They're not going to need to worry about it. But for those still trying to be on the up and coming, you're going to have to learn every step of this process to use this technology so that you can have a relationship directly with your customers. Otherwise, you're going to be disintermediated. That's just a fancy word for saying you're going to be kicked to the curb, and you're going to be made irrelevant because someone else is going to take the money that normally would go to you. And that isn't necessarily fun news, but it is reality. More in a moment. Imagine having a communication coach who never sleeps. Meet your new secret weapon, the TJ Walker AI clone. Go to tjwalker.ai and start getting custom coaching 24/7. No scheduling, no hourly fees. I've trained presidents, prime ministers, and Fortune 500 CEOs. But the same exact communication I've delivered to world leaders is now available to you online, anytime at MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Whether you're speaking on camera, pitching a client, or handling a crisis, you need these tools. These aren't fluffy motivational videos. They're practical, battle-tested techniques to help you speak clearly, competently, and persuasively. Go to MediaTrainingWorldwide.com and take your communication to the next level. Got feedback or a question for me? I actually read them, and if you send one, I'll send you a free mini course as a thank you. Just head to tjwalker.com/feedback. Ever wish you could just ask me your question live? Now you can. Every week I go live with members only. On YouTube, it's called TJ Live. I review pitches, fix presentations, and answer your questions on the spot. It's interactive, personal, and hands-on. If you want real-time coaching in a small group setting, go to tjwalker.com/live and become a member. This isn't passive content. It's a two-way conversation. Want to make sure we stay connected even if YouTube deletes me again? Join my newsletter at substack.com/@TJWalkerSuccess. It's free, fast, and packed with exclusive insights. The CEO of Duolingo wants to have a conversation about artificial intelligence. According to the New York Times, Duolingo founder and CEO Louis von Ahn insists that artificial intelligence won't erase the human side of his language learning app, despite backlash after he declared the company would become AI first. Duolingo, now valued at $15 billion with 130 million monthly users, has leaned on AI for years, but von Ahn said the latest advances allow for more personalized practice, like conversation tools that don't judge mistakes. Still, some users worried AI would replace people or the app itself. This was on me, von Ahn admitted, saying he hadn't explained the plan clearly. He emphasized that the company hasn't cut full-time jobs and continues to hire real people, though roles may change as AI takes on repetitive work. For the CEO, the key is balance. AI speeds development, but motivation and gamification keep users engaged. On your phone, you're one tap away from TikTok, he said. You have to make learning enjoyable. Okay, so what's the real message here? If you're a CEO and you're really excited about using AI to make your company better, more profitable, more efficient, and reduce labor cost, that's great. Your head should be there. But be warned, you're going to panic and scare people to death if you say, hey, we're AI first. What they're going to hear is, human beings, we're firing you and we're getting rid of you. You've got to make the case that it is going to make the pie bigger for everyone. So let's dig a little deeper here. This CEO, I think, feels a little bad about how it played out because they still have thousands of employees. There's still a lot of people working in this company, and they are hiring more people all the time. That's part of what makes it easy in this case. There are going to be companies, and there probably already are, where they've got 100 employees, and they figure out, this whole AI thing means we could be just as profitable, in fact, more profitable, serve just as many clients, serve just as many customers with only 10 employees. Now we're firing 90%. That's going to scare people. That may result in a political backlash. And we may see where companies are sort of handcuffed, where maybe for every single person you fire because of AI, you have to retrain or hire someone else in another division or another city. I don't know what the solution is, but I could tell you it's going to cause political unrest at some point if these people cannot get jobs elsewhere. Let's not forget, when you look at the history of technology, yes, it has decimated people in certain industries, but every single time that's happened, eventually all those people or the economy at large has more jobs than ever. Technology has always been a net increaser in jobs to an economy. Now, if you were a telephone operator in 1960, you and about 400,000 other people were fired. Maybe you got a job as an administrative assistant or secretary, as it was called back then. Maybe you didn't. But we did not see unemployment as a whole across a society go up just because technology made it easier to not have to have an actual human being going like this and this connecting people on phones. This time it is different. Now, history is littered with people who made mistakes by saying this time is different, and it wasn't different. But I don't know of any serious expert on artificial intelligence who doesn't genuinely believe this is a more powerful technology. And this, above any other technology, has the power to really make most human labor obsolete. Now, the counter argument to that is, oh, TJ, you're neglecting how creative human beings are. They always create more wants, more wishes, more concepts of luxury than existed previously. Maybe we go back to a time where a certain segment of society wants an actual human being standing over them, fanning them with a giant palm leaf. It's not what I would want. I wouldn't want to receive that. I wouldn't want that job. But you never know what human beings are capable of convincing themselves is a luxury item. If someone came from Mars and saw us looking at our watches, and one of them gave perfect time and one of them gave bad time and lost a minute or two every month, the person from Mars would say, well, why doesn't everyone have the watch with perfect time? Then when you explain the one with perfect time costs a couple $100, the fancy watch that loses time every month, oh, that's a $10,000 or $20,000 watch. The person from Mars would think, that's crazy. Why would you have the cheaper watch that tells perfect time? And yet we as humans perceive things differently in an irrational way. So that's the one thing it's very difficult to model if you're an artificial intelligence theorist or a theorist on the evolution of capitalism. We just don't know what people are going to want, what they're going to value. Therefore, we can't really know if there's going to be mass unemployment. Because yes, when people went from horseback and carriage days to automobiles, it did put carriage coach drivers out of work. It did put a lot of blacksmiths out of work. It put a lot of people who make horseshoes out of work. But the economy kept growing. Unemployment did not go up. So what is going to happen here? I don't know, but let's step back here on the communication lesson. If you are a CEO of a company, doesn't matter if it's a company with 500,000 employees or 2 million employees like Walmart, or if you are a consultant and you have one employee yourself, you got to be aware when you start talking about, oh, I'm not going to use employees, AI does it better. You're going to trigger people. You're going to trigger a strong reaction. And there's a certain percentage of people who are going to be very upset. Some may be attacking you. Am I telling you don't use AI effectively? Don't try to shift your human capital to where they can have the most impact. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm suggesting you've got to parse your language very clearly. And if in the case of Duolingo, your reality is you are going to try to become an AI first company and always look first to see how AI can solve a problem before putting in expensive human capital. I think that's a great policy, but you've got to phrase it a little differently. You need to say something like, We are now going to be able to hire people who are going to have even more interesting careers because they're not going to have to do boring, repetitive work, because we are going to be bringing in and integrating artificial intelligence to help our growing employee base. Sounds like that is essentially what the message of Duolingo is. He didn't say it that way, and it attracted a lot of criticism and some backlash. So that is my suggestion to you if you are a CEO and your company's still expanding. Now, that's an easy scenario. Again, the hard case is when you really do see where you're not only going to have the ability to fire people because of AI, especially as AI migrates into robots, but you're going to have to, because if you don't, your competitors will, and you will quickly be put out of business. That's going to be a tougher situation. And at that point, there may be no soothing way of stating it. You're going to have to just deliver it unvarnished, get it out there, let people know. You'll do whatever you can to transition your employees, to help them find new jobs, whatever it is. But you're going to have to accept the reality rather than bury your head and wait for technology to put you out of business or bankrupt you the way it did Kodak or Blockbuster or other companies that refused to really understand where technology is going. Issue 5. North Carolina Confederate monument goes too far, lawsuit says. This is according to the Times. A federal lawsuit in Columbia, North Carolina is challenging one of the nation's most explicit pro-slavery monuments. The 23-foot statue standing outside the Tyrrell County Courthouse since 1902 bears the words, "In appreciation of our faithful slaves." For residents like Sherry Reed Robinson, who first saw the inscription as a teenager, those words have long raised doubts about whether justice could truly be found inside the courthouse. Now she and others interpret the inscription as unconstitutional, violating equal protection rights by promoting racially discriminatory government speech. The county says it's bound by a 2015 state law protecting historical documents. But plaintiffs counter the government property should not display words honoring slavery. Civil rights advocates note the case comes amid a wider push by the Trump administration to restore Confederate imagery at military bases, cemeteries, and parks. As one attorney put it, the lawsuit isn't about erasing history, it's about rejecting a message that glorifies slavery on public grounds. Okay, so what's the real message here of this Confederate monument in North Carolina? The message is, hey, we like to pretend we're patriots, but if you want to overthrow the government of the United States and kill a whole bunch of Americans and lose, we're still going to glorify you as long as you're white people. Because that's what this Civil War was all about. A bunch of traitors who killed real Americans. The fact that Trump or anyone else wants to glorify them is utterly despicable. Okay, so let's go a little deeper here. This has mystified me for a long, long time, that so many people who call themselves patriotic Americans don't seem to recognize that the people who fought for the Civil War were, in fact, by definition, traitors. They were insurrectionists. They were rebel. They called themselves rebel. They were rebelling against the United States government. And I don't know of any other country where the people who lose the Civil War are glorified. I have a hard time imagining, let's say every black slave had bound together and fought for freedom and lost, and we still lived in a slavery era time. Would we have all these monuments everywhere glorifying those people who lost in that case? Maybe we should, but I guarantee you, if we had white supremacists running the country today, they would not be putting up monuments to glorify people who formed a rebellion, fought a civil war, and lost. Now, that's not a directly analogous situation, because I'm certainly sympathetic to people wanting to fight for their freedom. But the point is still there, that when you fight a civil war and you lose, you don't get monuments for you. In fact, even when you win, the country you are fighting against, they don't typically put up monuments. You don't see in Great Britain that many monuments for George Washington. They some of them didn't really like the fact that we rebelled against them. Now they're over it. Yes, we've put together a good relationship with Great Britain. But the basic principle, you go around the world, when you commit treason, which is what happened, and you lose, you don't get monuments. You get burned in effigy, you get tarred and feathered, you get imprisoned, you get killed, you don't get honors. And the idea that here we are, 175 years later after Civil War, and still you've got people like Trump and his henchmen figure, oh, here's a way to stick it to those liberals. Here's a way to stick it to those black people. We know it irritates them. So let's continue to put up monuments and glorify monuments that have kind words, in this case, in appreciation of our faithful slaves. It's a bizarre type of person who can't see that as offensive. It's one thing to say, oh, you're being woke. That's a political correctness. Oh, that's run amok. What you're really saying is you don't ever want to be offended. And you like offensive speech as long as it offends people you don't like. If someone put up a monument to Bertrand Russell, who said, hey, here's a monument to a guy who made people realize believing in Christianity or God is a stupid, foolish thing that only ignorant children would do, I think that would offend a lot of people. I think it's a monument like that, if that's what it said, would probably be torn down and it wouldn't get a lot of tax funding. And the very same people who want to defend this statue would be the first ones clamoring to take that one down that is offensive to people's religious sensibilities. But they don't see it that way. They only believe that something is guilty of wokeness or political incorrectness when it offends them. And the reality is they are more sensitive than anyone. I'm TJ Walker. I want to thank you for joining me today. Mark your calendar. September 2nd, we launch fully, big time, on this new show. It'll be on every major podcast platform. Every social media platform will be coming to you every day of the week. Haven't completely decided if I want to do every weekend, but I'm having such a fun time doing it 7 days a week. I may continue doing that. So taking your suggestions, what do you like, what do you not like, what segments resonate with you the most. Thanks so much. Please post comments, please subscribe, please sign up for notifications. And most of all, disagree. Feel free to disagree with me. Fact check me. Be a part of the conversation. Thanks. See you.